Pro boxing fans, Eddie Hearn. Turki Al Sheikh said that he wants you versus Frank Warren on a card. Were you aware of this, or did that just come off the cuff?
Yeah, we had this conversation in Riyadh, and I think he saw the interest of myself and Frank together at the press conference, and he said, what we need to do is your team versus your team. And what a great opportunity. I mean, we've got so many ideas for that card. We need 10 more rather than 5, but it's a team event. I want to see bonuses for the teams, where you could lose your fight, but you go ringside to see your guys winning 3-2 and the whole team gets a bonus. Reality style build-up shows as well, and also a huge amount of competition, and me and Frank screaming ringside for our guys. So it's going to be a huge event.
People were saying this is a cash grab. Is that a bit unfair? Because obviously Fury, Joshua Ngannou calling it a cash grab. Is that a bit unfair considering sort of Tyson Fury? This fight may not have happened if Fury hadn't had lost to Ngannou. Is it Fury's fault in that sense?
Look at what we heard today. We heard that the winner of this fight will fight the winner of Usyk against Fury. So for us, that's exactly what we wanted to hear, because at the end of the day, this fight doesn't give us a lot other than a fight for the fans, an exciting fight, good financial opportunity. But now we know that if he knocks out Francis Ngannou, he will fight the winner of Usyk against Fury. And if Tyson Fury can do the business against Usyk, that makes that fight the biggest of all time. And you're going to see it.
What do you make of Ngannou's comments that he feels that AJ is easier to drop than Fury?
I mean, AJ will probably take more chances against Ngannou. Tyson Fury really didn't do a lot because after he got hurt, he wanted to stay out of the way, and obviously had the Usyk fight to announce that night as well. So I think that the pluses of that fight are now we have tape on Francis Ngannou, only 10 rounds. But the minuses are his confidence must be through the roof through that performance, and he's going to be very dangerous on March the 8th.
Frank Warren said that this would be the end for either guy at the top of the sport, which I kind of felt was a bit unfair on Francis. If he delivers a good performance in defeat, there's still some amazing matchups for him in the heavyweight division with the likes of Wilder, even Zhang, Parker. Would you like to see him stick around regardless if he wins or loses?
Yeah, look, AJ wants to be undisputed champion, certainly world champion. And if that's not available, what is the future in the sport? But you don't really want to be losing to Francis Ngannou, but at the same time, it can happen. So, got to be switched on and got to come through the fight.
You think there's a future for Ngannou in the sport, even if he loses?
He'd be 0-2, but he would have fought Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. It's not a bad couple of debuts, is it?
Eddie, so he's talking about the winner of this, the fight, the winner of Usyk Fury. There's obviously the rematch clauses in Usyk Fury deal, and there's also the situation with the IBF and Philip Hergovitz is mandatory. Where does that all stand now, or it's just a case that this idea of the winner of this fight and the winner of that trumps everything?
Bet against him. I wouldn't. If he wants it, it'll happen.
And obviously there's all these exciting fights happening in Saudi, but Anthony Joshua's filled stadiums in this country. He's on a path now where, say, looks for undisputed in Saudi later this year. Might he have fought in the UK for the last time?
Possibly, yeah, possibly. I mean, all we want is for him to become world champion again, but the dream of being undisputed is now, like I said to him just before the head-to-head, wow, you're 2 fights away from being undisputed world heavyweight champion. And if he beats Francis Ngannou, he's 1 fight away from becoming undisputed. What a comeback that would be, after we looked like it was all come crumbling down. So we're very proud of him, but we also know the jeopardy and danger that comes with the Francis Ngannou fight.
Eddie, do you think AJ's kind of activity going into this fight will be a key advantage?
Yeah, I think that, sometimes is it one too many within the period, or sometimes you're just in the flow. I mean, this is going to be his 4th fight in 11 months. It's quite incredible, and I think there's a lot to be said about returning back to the gym. Sometimes you need the break. Hopefully that's not now, but certainly he's in the groove.
Definitely. Obviously, His Excellency mentioned kind of a Queensbury Matchroom 5v5. Is there any fights that kind of spring to mind?
Oh mate, so many. I mean, at the top end, you've got Fury against AJ. I'm not saying that would be on that card, but that's an example. You've got other tremendous fights like Callum Smith against Yard. You've got, I wouldn't say smaller fights, but you've got fights like Shabazz Massoud against Liam Davis. Loved that fight. Nathaniel Collins against Hopi Price. That's been ordered by the British Boxing Board of Control. You've got fights. You've got Nick Ball fighting for the featherweight world championship. We've got Raymond Ford fighting for the featherweight world championship. They could unify on a card like that. You know, in female boxing, you've got Sky Nicholson against Raven Chapman for the world title. Like, there's literally like a dozen fights you could do. And I love the idea, as I said earlier, about, you know, that team event where there's a win bonus for the team. You know, probably a side bet between me and Frank as well. But like a win bonus between the team where you're all part of the team. If you lose your fight, you can come out and support the other team. You know, you're still going to be part of this bonus. And, you know, we're all about delivering opportunities for our fighters. And people keep talking about fights in Britain and all that. Like, the opportunities that these guys are getting in Saudi Arabia is incredible. And if, you know, to be part of that team in that team event would be an incredible night. But like I said, probably need 10 rather than 5. But so many matchups to make. You know, I'll pass it over to the fans on social media and say, tell us the matchups you want. Matchroom v Queensbury.
Eddie, with obviously the money that His Excellency is putting into all of the shows coming, you know, this year, will we see Anthony Joshua fight at least 3 times, win or lose? You know, if he wins or loses with Ngannou?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think just the win. I think if you lose, who knows what's going to happen. There isn't a rematch clause, but, you know, could there be another fight with Ngannou? Maybe. You don't want to start building again. But really the plan is to probably box 3 times this year, but just get through March the 8th first.
And are we likely to see AJ fight in Saudi Arabia for the foreseeable future?
I think certainly for this fight and the undisputed fight, yes.
Hi Eddie, it's Aisha for iBoxing Hub. Is this going to be easy work for AJ?
I don't think anything's easy against someone who's got the sort of strength and resilience of Francis Ngannou. I think technically on paper it should be, but you know Ngannou's going to find a way to be a danger in the fight. AJ's got to stay disciplined. Both huge punchers. I mean, you saw the size of both of them. It's a dangerous fight, but one I believe he's going to win.
Yeah, absolutely. And AJ's obviously got 10 years professional boxing behind him. What would Ngannou need to bring in order to even be any kind of threat to him?
It's the heavyweight division. So it's the only division where someone with limited experience can come in and win. And you saw that against Tyson Fury. You know, I would never have said that someone was capable of doing that. He did it. And he's got the same kind of threat and danger to Anthony Joshua, but he's got to use his experience and his skill to overcome it.
Thank you so much.
Eddie Rico here for No Smoke Sport. Just going on to the co-main event, you know, we do have Joseph Parker versus Zhilei Zhang. Zhilei Zhang has been on a tremendous form. Obviously, Parker coming through with Deontay Wilder there in that victory. Can you give us a winner, keys to victory?
It's a great fight. You know, I think Joseph Parker's the favourite in that fight.
Yes.
You know, I think that a lot of people are taking the victories over Joe Joyce from Zhang, and probably the performance against Hrgovic as, you know, putting this guy on the pedestal. He is a great fighter, but I think if Joe uses his movement like he did in the Wilder fight, I believe he's the favourite in that fight.
Eddie, pictures on social media of you and Frank did a sort of face-to-face sit-down with Steve Bunce and Ade. Can you give us an idea of how that went?
Just talking about Saudi, talking about our thoughts on the business, talking about our stable. It was really good. You know, like, I feel like it feels like something that should have happened a long time ago, but at least we got there, and the future is very bright.
Just away from this, Taylor Capsule 2, is there any update on date and venue?
Yeah, I've said before, you know, we want to bring some big fights to the UK and Ireland as well, and, you know, for us, Taylor against Catterall, Katie Taylor against Chantel Cameron 3, and Wood Warrington are 3 fights that I think it's important to try and make.
Eddie, I know that Ngannou last time challenged Fury to a rematch in MMA in the PFL. Do you think if he challenged AJ to a rematch in MMA, would he be up for it, and would you be open to that as well? Yeah.
Absolutely never, ever, ever.
No chance.
I mean, no, and as if Tyson Fury is going to get in a cage with Francis Ngannou. I mean, you know.
What do you think his thought process is of him saying, yeah, he'd be up for it? Because he says he's up for it, but it's not happened.
It's got you talking. That's why.
Eddie, just going back to last weekend, you obviously saw Beterbiev close up against your man Callum Smith. Turki Al-Sheikh says that's going to happen now against Dimitri Bivol, also one of your fighters, in June. So having seen Beterbiev close up this weekend, we know how good Bivol is. How do you see that one panning out?
Yeah, he's a serious dude. I mean, it's a 50-50 fight. You know, obviously we back Dimitri in that fight. We've already done our deal with His Excellency for that fight. We've signed. So it's now over to Beterbiev and for His Excellency to put the date together. And again, you know, another example of one of the biggest fights in boxing delivered in Saudi Arabia.
What's next for Callum, by the way? Because obviously that's So this point setback is maybe we talked about how key activity's been for Anthony Joshua. Callum's obviously not been very active at all. So is it just a case of getting him out?
He was very down after the fight because he wanted to be the best light heavyweight in the world. And he showed he wasn't. And I think if he's not the best light heavyweight in the world, what does he want to achieve? So there is a lot of big domestic fights out there for him. We talked about the Yard fight on the Matchroom Queensbury card, but is that going to get him motivated? He's going to see a few weeks now, a couple of months to lick his wounds and see if he wants to come back. And if he didn't, he's achieved a huge amount in the sport. He's won British, European, World, Ring Magazine championships. So he could quite easily bow out.
Cruiserweight possible or
no? Definitely not.
Eddie, just one question. Sorry. Will we likely see Jai Opetaia versus Bradis
Yes.
On the Queensbury v Matchroom card?
Yes, I believe there'll be an official announcement soon, but you can get excited about that one. It's going to be a tremendous fight.
Any thoughts on Bellu's tweet about Beterbiev?
Yeah, I think Tony's a very emotional guy. He wanted Callum Smith to win. I got a lot of criticism myself about comments, and when I said about it's like he's not human, I'm not talking about through taking performance enhancing drugs. I'm saying this guy fights like he is not human. He was not breathing in that fight. Like when people say he's not getting better, he's always been like that. He's 39 years old, and you've got a 39-year-old who's got elevated levels of HGH and testosterone. This guy's not normal. And I'm not saying that he cheated. We just wanted answers from VADA. So I'm sure he's clean. It wasn't an adverse finding. I don't know what else you want me to say. But in terms of his performance, when I say he's not human, a guy that is not breathing, a guy that cannot be hurt, a guy that continues to walk you down and throw punches that just beat you up, is a very tough challenge, and he's an outstanding fighter.
Eddie, I know that.
No, we didn't get any answers from VADA.
They said they tested more after.
No, but they didn't test more. They just continued to test. So what they should have done was do more tests on that sample to give us the reasons why. He had obviously the elevated levels, and then 4 days later they were back normal again. I don't know, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not a scientist, but if any promoter or person who represented a fighter didn't ask those questions, they'd be mad. It's not an accusation to Artur Beterbiev, it's just to understand why that would happen.
Are you working with VADA? Obviously, Beterbiev has been tested, I'm assuming, after that fight. Are you still working with them to get more information on the spike?
I'm going to write to them and ask again. But look, they're an outstanding agency. I think we're their biggest client. The question that I would pose is, from those elevated levels, can you categorically confirm that occurred naturally and not through ingestion of performance-enhancing substances? Yes or no? Answer me that question. That's it.
Any close to signing Boots Ennis?
No, we're in chats with Boots Ennis, as everybody is. He's a tremendous fighter. I think he's going to be in a great position at £147. We're talking to 5 or 6 big names at the moment about bringing him to the team, but we shall see.
As you talk sports here, when we saw Fury's performance against Ngannou, how much of that do you think is Fury performing badly and Ngannou being a lot better and possibly a top heavyweight contender?
I think it's difficult to go into a fight with someone that you have no idea what they're going to do, how they're going to shape up, how they're going to throw a jab, little tells, everything. So it's difficult in that respect. I think Fury looked not scared, but obviously he had a fight already signed and he felt the power and he didn't want to engage. Is he at the end of the road? Is he slowing down? Is his punch resistance going? We'll find out on February the 17th. But I think you have to give credit to Francis Ngannou because he got in there and did it.
Okay, last question, please.
And it's also been announced that Joseph Parker versus Zhilei Zhang's on the undercard of that. So we've got Joshua and Ngannou, obviously massive fight because both of them are from West African heritage. Obviously it's in the Middle East. Zhilei Zhang's a massive draw in China. Do you think we could be seeing possibly record-breaking numbers here?
Yeah, I mean, last show did great numbers. This is going to do even bigger numbers. You've also got Fury Usyk. You're bringing all the big heavyweights from around the world. We've also got Justice Huni on the card. A great Australian prospect. Other heavyweights, Moses Itumu, great young prospect as well. So it's great to see the heavyweight division moving and finally getting the fights that we want to see.